Hey everyone, Larry Lawton here. I got a great video for you today. It's going to be about the Chauvin trial and the conviction and what's going to happen to him when he gets to prison and the whole process. It's going to be a good video for you guys. Before I get started, check us out on the YouTube member programs. Check us on Patreon. Check out my book, Gangster Redemption. I mean, obviously it's going to talk a lot about prison in here with what's going to happen to Chauvin and what happens to people like that. It's going to be a pretty good video here now. So let me get right to the crux of this. And you guys know I follow all these cases. These are national cases, and I think it's important that I bring a voice out. One, I was the Casey Anthony expert on what was going to happen to Casey Anthony in prison, and everything that I said happened. So I do stuff like that. On this case, I don't know, I'm sure I'll be on some of the networks talking about what's going to happen to Chauvin in prison, Derek Chauvin, who got convicted. Now let's get right to the conviction. And you're gonna hear all about the prison stuff in a minute. The big thing here is he got convicted on everything. He got second-degree murder, then he got all three charges, manslaughter and third-degree murder. And I think it was all the right charges. I think everything worked out best. You know, we put up a survey here on YouTube. It was justice served, I think that's what it was. It was like 70-30, yes. And I said, what about the other 30%? What do they think? What do they think is going to happen, or what do they think should happen? Or I don't get that one. You know, it kind of blew me out. I thought that would be a 95, 90%, except some crazy people that would say no. Like, what more justice can you have? I mean, you can't hang him in a square and hang someone. We won't want to do that to anyone. We hope people change. We hope people get second chances. Yes, even things that happen like this, because when we have young people in prison, and I do the Innocent Project, I testify for some of them kids. You know, they made bad choices. A lot of people would say they should never be out and all this, but you know, they deserve it. They deserve a second chance. Look at me. Now, I'm not saying every case, and you guys know how I feel about a lot of things. On this case, though, what that guy did was so fucking wrong. I always look at those guys and say, why? Those are the kind of guys I want to fight. Those are the kind of guys that think they're badasses because they got the gun and the fucking badge and all this shit, and they're putting a knee on a guy's neck for fucking 9 minutes. I mean, the whole case, he got convicted. They did a better trial. Now, what pissed me off in the case, I gotta mention this. Maxine Waters is a moron. But what Maxine Waters did by inciting the words, and I'm gonna read some of the words she wrote. Representative Maxine Waters said that demonstrators should get more confrontational if the jury doesn't return a guilty verdict. You know, as a public figure, you cannot intimidate, you know. You cannot intimidate a jury. You can't communicate with a jury. And you know, it's kind of funny. Someone says, yeah, but they're sequestered. The word sequestered means they take these jurors and they put them in a room during the day. There's no TV or anything. And then they even go back to a hotel. And in the hotel, they'll say there's only certain channels they shut on and off so you can't hear anything. Obviously, you get to talk to your loved one, but you know, don't discuss the case and stuff like this. And so they go, oh, they can never know what they're saying in that jury room. And I laughed. I was in the hole for 3 years. In every single prison we're in, we get communications in the hole, under lock and key, and we get information always about what's going on in the yard, who's hot, what's going on, if a guy is a no good guy, who's selling the dope, right down there in the hole. So don't tell me you can't get the information of what's going on. So Maxine Waters, you know, you want to profess to be part of it. What you did, Maxine Waters, was as guilty as what those other guys did during the insurrection. And I do call it an insurrection. Those guys who incited them to march and do all the stuff, you did the same exact thing, maybe worse, because you're subverting the jury system. And that can't happen. And you know, Joe Biden, I like what you're doing. I think you're being very aggressive and everything. But you too were wrong. You can't be saying that either. And this is the backlash he's getting. As the jury deliberates the manslaughter murder charge against Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer on trial for the death of George Floyd, last Biden told reporters on Tuesday about his overnight call to the Floyd family. Okay? I think he could have waited, but he didn't. He called during the trial, and without explicitly stating that he's hoping for a conviction, the president said, I am praying the verdict is the right verdict. The evidence is overwhelming in my view. Now, that's telling the jury, wow, I'm Joe Biden, I'm the president of the United States, I'm a pretty smart guy. I think, you know, you gotta be an idiot not to do this and find guilty. Listen, the president should know better. And political figures should know better. You know, it's one thing for pundits to talk on TV. You know, lawyers, and they do it every night, and each on each side, whatever they're doing is what they're doing. But when a public official like the President of the United States, and I said this when Trump was president, I think what gets them mostly in trouble is their willingness, if you want to call it that, to, say things publicly and think it's not going to be, received by certain people the wrong way. You're the President of the United States, you keep your nose out of this business. You said you were going to do it, you should do it. And I know there's unrest, and I believe this Chauvin case pissed me off too. I think he should have been, and the other case pisses me off too, this other kid. This Dante Wright kid, that pisses me off too. But we're, getting more into that in a little bit. Now, I'm going to get right into what do you think is going to happen to Derek Chauvin since he is in prison. Now, guess what? He is incarcerated as of now. When you get a conviction like that, they don't let you self-report. Sometimes if it's a doctor who did some, bullshit tax crap or accountant that embezzled money, and they go into a camp for 3 months or 6 months or even a year, they'll let them what they call self-report. No way is Derek Chauvin going to be out on bail now after that conviction. Obviously, he's a flight risk. Who knows who would try to get him out of the country, do certain things, believe in this and that. So he's incarcerated as of right now. When he was convicted right then and there, in that room or in a room right behind it, they're fingerprinting him and they're putting all the paperwork and they've literally fingerprinted him right then and there. Then they take him in the back, and obviously in this case he is isolated. They don't have him with other prisoners because courtrooms keep going. Even though big cases, that whole courthouse might have 25 rooms. Courtrooms working, and they don't stop the whole entire process for this one thing. They'll shut down maybe an elevator, or maybe they'll, have a certain times of court because of the public interest, and maybe it's too crowded. But they're not shutting down a whole court system. No way. So there's prisoners in the back of those jails. How courthouses work, all your courthouses, there's like an inner circle in the inner sanctum where one, you have the judge's chambers. It's the back alleys and stuff, and I go back there with judge friends of mine. They all have their judicial suites, and they have what they call a conference room in all of their suites. And what they do there is they have a lot of hearings right there in their offices. So they can do that. The judge's chambers is called, and most things are done right there, to be honest. Now, they have back ways to get to jail cells. Behind every courtroom, they'll have a jail cell, and that's where they keep the people hold for when they're waiting for court, because they'll bring 10 guys up to a judge and do hearings or whatever they have that day, and they go get them at the jail. So that's how that works. So so Chauvin is in an isolation cell right then and there. Then he's going to be taken down to the county jail. Now this is in Minnesota. So he's going to the Minnesota County Jail, and he's going to be put in isolation. Guaranteed 1,000% he's put in isolation. And he's going to be put in there for a few reasons. One, he's going to be under suicide watch. After you get a conviction like this and this big thing, this man's going to be under suicide watch. Guaranteed. Suicide watch. Also, they don't want other inmates to get to him. Even where they can almost talk to him, they don't want that. Obviously, the case is not over. What the judge said was wrong. The one attorney says they think they have an appeal. Well, they would have had an appeal anyway. They will have appeals for years on this case. And then Derek Chauvin is going to fire that attorney, or whoever he was, and he's going to file what they call in the federal system a 2255, which is an ineffective assistance of counsel. He's doing that. I guarantee he's going to do that. He's going to say this lawyer was incompetent. Truthfully, it's very hard to prove after the fact unless you get what they call voir dire, some mistakes at jury selection that are pretty big, or jury instructions is a big one. And in a case like this, you don't see that much because they're going over it like you wouldn't believe. But it is true, you get that. And that's where you get your 2255. And you can prove other reasons where the 2255 against his attorney. It's called ineffective assistance of counsel. Well, Derek Chauvin's got this big process going on. First of all, he's got a sentencing date. So he's going to get a sentencing date. And what they're going to do in the meantime is they're going to do a PSI, or a pre-sentence investigation, or a PSO. They call them different wording. It is what the probation department does, a really deep rap on this guy. Everything that he had, said, money, everything they can get together. Where he's going to go when he gets out. Would he have a job? What did he have other places that work? Now, this is going in front of a judge. This doesn't have to be proved with the shadow of a doubt or anything. This is what they call a PSI. Now, this PSI is going to go in front of the judge. He's going to get the PSI, and it's going to have a recommendation. The recommendations is going to be high because this is a second-degree murder case. This could be a 40-year sentence. Could be 20. I'm guessing it's going to be 20. That's my guess. Let's see how close I am. And that would be probably commensurate with other cases like this, and a kid with a second-degree murder gets 20 years, maybe 25. So it's gonna be 20 or 25, my opinion. Now, the judge can do anything he wants. He gets that PSI, and he's gonna, look at this whole case, and now what he does is figure out, what they're gonna do with the case. Like, how much time am I gonna give him? Is he good behavior? Does he, they get what they call an upward or a downward departure. An upward departure could be, there's extenuating circumstances that he's really a piece of garbage and a racist and everything else you want to go with, and more evidence comes out and he's going to go higher. It's going to be an upward departure. Or it could be a downward departure. Now, you can fight this all you want. You rarely win on any of these things, except unless, again, there's blatant errors in the PSI. And you get to check your PSI out. It's not like you're going in there blind. They give you a copy of your PSI. They got the prosecutor a copy of PSI. And then you go in there and you discuss the PSI. Now, Chauvin's doing all this, and he's doing all of this from isolation. He's not going to be allowed to be around any other inmates. Now, that's good and bad. Good maybe for safety, but you still got going crazy. Also, you have a lot of guards, and these are the guards that don't like Chauvin, and I'll tell you why. When I was with Massey, my guard that guarded me, I asked him about that and how they treated him as an ex-officer when he went to jail, prison. He said there were some that really wanted me to fucking get it worse because, oh, you're a piece of shit, you gave us a bad name or whatever you did. Now, Massey handled it his own way, and you can go back in our playlist and look at that. So it showed me that even the guards might give Chauvin a hard time. And now that goes into a lot of different ways. I was abused in prison. I had food. Now they feed you. He's in isolation. He's going to be in a cell. He's going to supposedly get rec, which is, once a day, 5 days a week, and an hour a day, and that very rarely is going to happen. The weather's no good. They don't have enough guards. He's too high profile, whatever. It goes both ways. Sometimes they go the extra mile to do it because they know it's got media attention. But the regular jerk off like me and the regular inmate like me, we got screwed big time by the system. So now in the Derek Chauvin case, he's going to be in isolation. He's going to get his rec a day, but he's also going to be getting fed through a door. The little chute door. He's going to be fed in that chute door. And who prepares the trays are the inmates in the kitchen, and they send them over to the shoe or the hole. He's going to be in what they call ADSEG, which is administrative segregation or protective custody. He's in a place that he's not disciplinary segregation. He's going to be in administrative segregation, so he's going to have a little more privileges with a radio and whatever else that is, but he's still going to be in the hole. And now they're going to feed him through the chute in the door. Now the inmates prepare the food and they send it all down to the shoe. They might have 100 inmates in the shoe, and they come down. They usually send 112, 105 trays down, because I used to try to always get with the guard and get an extra tray or whatever I can maneuver. And he's going to experience a guard spitting in his food. And the reason I only say it's a guard, because if it was an inmate, they'd spit under the food and they'd put the food on top of it. If it's spitting on it, the food already came. So if a guard saw that spit in there and he went back to the kitchen, fucking hell would pay. So, the last one that's near that food that can look at it and there's spit in it, who did it. And the guards give the food out. Inmates don't give the food out. And so I could foresee that happening very, very easily. And he's going to have to really live off his ramen noodle soups and whatever else. I think he'll have money from various groups or whatever. So I don't think he's ever going to worry about his, money aspect of getting commissary, because a lot of people don't understand this. When you go to prison, you need money, everybody. Money is important. It gets you by. It gets you your stamps. It gets you started on the yard. It gets you your sneakers. It gets you your sweatpants. It gets you your cups. It gets you the stuff that you're going to make you as best comfortable as you can be in prison. And that's what money will do. And it will do it. So Chauvin's going to have that, but he's going to be in isolation. So there's the positive and the negative to that. Now, eventually, they could try, and I don't think this will be for a long time, they'll put this guy on the yard. And now he would go, and the reason I don't think it's going to happen, because he's going to be in probably a maximum security prison. Maybe a medium, but I think he's going to go to a maximum security prison. And he's so high profile, there isn't a chance that guy lasts a week on a yard. I mean, some guys would want to hit him just to get the name, and if they have a life sentence themselves, they don't give a fuck. I killed Derek Chauvin, the guy who fucking killed George Floyd, the guy who was just a fucking, he'd be a folk hero to people in prison, to people outside into prison. And he knows that. And the system knows that. So the system's going to put him in what they call WITSEC. which is a witness protection program. Although he's not witness against anybody else, he needs that kind of protection to be in a WITSEC. And you never know even there, because they have guys who have life sentences who were there, and they were just putting them because they know they get killed. But you know, you get that guy who says, fuck it, I might as well go out in a fucking storm and kill this fucking guy, and I'm a hero. So, I mean, that's what happened. Jeffrey Dahmer lived in prison for X amount of years, and he was looking over his shoulder every day until they killed him right on the yard. Whitey Bulger, same thing. He got to one prison, Hazleton, in one day. They put a shank in his eye, and it took his eye out, and they were cutting his tongue out, and they killed him. And it was in the process of cutting their tongue out. And so that's all, you know, real shit. And that real shit is gonna, that's why I'm not a believer in the death penalty. But believe me, if you got it coming, it's coming in a prison. And it's somewhere you don't want to be, because that's really having it coming. And that's called, you know, and I get hacked for this, it's called street justice. You know, I don't believe in it, and I don't believe cops should do it, and I don't believe gangs should be retaliating against each other. I think there's a lot of things that could stop, and they should. So I'm not going to go into that whole end of it, but we're talking about Derek Chauvin in prison. He will eventually have a cellmate, even unless he's totally deemed and he has to be in isolation. But I think he's going to get to a place where he'll have, and he might be in a dormitory even, and that makes it worse. Talk about being in a place where you're with a bunch of other guys and you can't fucking shit. You know, it's so sad. I think a big sad part of my life is that I lost a lot of that dignity, or not just dignity, you know, way I look at things now. It's nothing for me to bend down and spread my ass if I have to for a search. You know, I mean, in other words, I lost all those, you know, inhibitions. You know, lift your nuts, turn around. I mean, you know, who thinks of that? It's sad that my brain is not working right because of that. And that is just the case. But the Derek Chauvin, I mean, I think he's going to be under such protective custody that nothing will happen to him. He's going to have a hard line because there's nobody going to support him. I don't think the guards are going to support him. I think he'll get a few sympathy guards, we call them, and who knows, you know, who knows from white supremacists or not, who knows. I don't even like to look at anybody and say they are or not just because of where they're from. I don't believe in that. I think everybody has made their own minds and built the way they're own built. I come from New York City, so there wasn't prejudice where we come from. It just wasn't there. But anyway, so I think Chauvin's going to have a pretty rough time of it, even with the guard help. But I don't think he's going to get assaulted. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Somebody sent an email and they said, well, what about Jeffrey Epstein? And I told you what I believe in Jeffrey Epstein. I think he was murdered. And I think that's a whole different way here. Don't think that would happen here. I don't think you got billionaires that are worried about what Derek Chauvin said. So I don't think there's that deep stuff. And people say that's deep, Larry. But it is deep and it's true. But, and I discussed the Epstein case in a video, so if you haven't seen it, go back to the playlist. But on this video, I think what's going to happen to Derek Chauvin, I think he's going to be protected to the degree he's not going to get hurt. I don't think he's ever going to be on a yard, ever on a maximum security yard. Only way he's on a yard is what they call WITSEC, which is a witness protection program, or we call them cheese factories, protective custody, that kind of shit, and that's where he's going to be for his whole time. Again, good and bad, socialization, I don't know what kind of guy he was. It's going to get to you. I don't give a fuck who you are. You come out crazy, especially all those years. All right, guys, I hope you got a little bit of insight what's going to happen to Derek Chauvin from the process now all the way to the morning and the case. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, like, hit the button, do all the stuff you know people ask you to do. Comment, because you know I do comment back. I love doing that. I love hearing the comments. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Don't have interactions with law enforcement. And if you do, make them a positive one. So have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Please stay safe. Larry Lawton out. See you next time.